Hey, welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Recovery Matters podcast. My name is TJ. I'm a young person in long-term recovery, and for me that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since August 9th, 2016. I'm here today with Betsy.
Hi, my name is Betsy, and I am a woman in recovery.
You came in and we were having a discussion. We were kind of talking about recovery. I have actually known you for a long time, but I haven't known a lot about you. So I was like, oh, what's your recovery date? And we kind of ended up in this conversation. So you don't have an exact recovery date. Why don't you tell me about that? Because I think it's a cool story.
Yeah, so I usually tell people my recovery date is January of 2019. But I didn't necessarily find out that I was in recovery until I started doing my internship at CCAR because I was in school doing my associates at the time.
What was that like? You're sitting in CCAR and all of a sudden...
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to come here. I'm going to do my hours, get it over with, graduate, and I'm good. But I was sitting in an all recovery meeting and I started listening to people's stories and I was like, oh, snap. Maybe I did have a problem and I didn't really realize that my problem was as bad as I thought it was.
Okay. And then you were like...
And I was like, well, maybe I really need to work on myself, right? And at that time, right, there was a lot of people there. Like I was learning, I think I was taking like psychology classes at the time. So I was learning like the traits of my dad, like my childhood and stuff like that, why everything kind of trickled down. But then I really took a step back and reflected and I started going to church again. So
Nice.
God, Jesus Christ, who's my Lord and Savior, he's my pathway to my recovery. He's really the reason why I get to be where I am today. So I decided to, like we say, give my life back to the Lord. And that has helped me restore myself, have the family I have today, and so on and so forth.
That's so awesome. Yeah, we have a cool connection. Both young parents in recovery, which is cool. For me, like I feel like a lot of connection to a lot of young parents and like being in recovery, right? And like I didn't have kids until I was sober. I was actually 5 years sober when I had my daughter, which was really cool because it gave me the opportunity to use a lot of principles in recovery into my parenting style and stuff.
Yeah, I find myself really so I'm a first generation Hispanic. My parents came to this country as immigrants. So I really felt like when I really started reflecting on myself, like I really felt like I had to break a lot of generational stuff as well. And that started with my kid, right? And being a young mom, right? At first I felt like my world was ending. Right? I was like, damn, I can't have fun anymore. Like, I can't do what I want to do. I was working 2 part-time jobs. I was in school, right? But I was still doing what I was doing. I was still going out, drinking, whether it was brunch, late night happy hour, whether it was at the club, a bar, wherever it was, or even just going to the liquor store. But when I had my son, that really opened my eyes to like wanting to change from the way I grew up. Like I didn't want to have my son seeing me like passed out drunk on the floor or thinking that it was okay to be drinking all types of the hours or that mommy has to have a drink every time she goes eat or that having a couple glasses of wine or the whole bottle is normal at night when mommy couldn't, not be so stimulated after whatever was going on, right? Or that arguing and yelling in home is normal when it's not. So a lot of what I've learned through my walk of faith and the people I started surrounding myself with, right? Especially like being in an agency like this where we can build such great connections. I've been able to really try to change and have been changing those different in that different environment, those cycles that I saw growing up in my own home as a child.
I think that's like part of the conversation of like addiction and recovery, right? Like nature versus nurture. My he's been sober for a couple of years now. I think almost 5 years, and really similar in that way, being young and like, I was exposed to 12-step fellowships at a young age, and like we used to go around and hang around, and like I knew that like people in recovery were cool, you know?
Yeah, I see. I wish I would have been shown a different way growing up, but I also thank God for what I did experience because it has
Yes,
allowed me to be who I am today.
absolutely.
And so I grew up in like a neighborhood where it was all Hispanic and Black people, right? African Americans. And there was, I think, like two families on the block, two white families on the block. And like everyone was drinking, everyone was smoking. We grew up very low income, right? We struggled a lot growing up, even though like my mom really didn't portray that we were struggling, right? But there was obvious things that we saw, or I saw as the oldest of my two sisters, that we can clearly see we were struggling, like
Yeah.
getting our car repoed and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's the environment I grew up in. Like I've seen someone get stabbed and someone get shot at, right? Nothing that I should be experiencing as a 12-year-old, right? But I had to experience it. I witnessed it with my own eyes. But I'm grateful for it, right?
Yeah.
Even though it led me to a path of destruction, we can say, right? But it allows me to do the work I do today.
So you had those experiences and then you started drinking shortly after?
So like we were talking about a little bit earlier, so I think I had my first drink when I was about 12, 13.
Yep.
Because my parents used to hide the alcohol under the cabinets, right? The bottle of, 1800, Don Julio, Jose Cuervo, whatever it was. So I remember I used to play like bar with my friends, thinking
That's pretty funny.
we used to play like bar or whatever. And I remember like cutting up the lime on the countertop of the kitchen and so on and so forth. So I had my first drink, but I never indulged in it because at the time my dad was drinking a lot. And I remember him having like altercations with the police. And I remember seeing people like fighting because of, having alcohol. So I never really wanted to indulge in it. And I think in middle school, I had like a friend who was a pastor's kid, right?
Okay.
And because I lived in that toxic environment, like all my friends were already smoking, there was people already having sex, all that. I was already sexualized with my body as a young age, right? So I got involved in church, but then I started stepping out of it. Like I really didn't fully commit to myself. And there was a point where I had met an ex-boyfriend of mine. And I was very young. I was 14. He was much older than me. And I fell in love, right? And thinking I was in love, right? We allowed, right? Because it was a team thing, even though we were young and dumb, right? We allowed certain things to start happening, things that we weren't supposed to be doing, thinking we were grown adults. Well, I know I wasn't a grown adult at the time. And he showed me a world of, clubbing. I've never been to a club, but because he was older than me, I would just get dressed up, put some heels on, get nice and stuff like that, and they would let me in. Never got ID'd. Never got asked how old I was, not even at the bar, but we would buy drinks. And on top of that, there was a lot going on at home, right? Me and my mom never had a great relationship. Like we've always had a very bad relationship. My dad's mom, my grandmother, had passed away. So my dad ended up going back to that toxic lifestyle of drinking again. And eventually he got deported back to our home country.
It's awful.
Yeah. So I think I was about to be 16 at the time when all this went down. So I really had to help, like I had to be a mom to my younger sisters and really support my mom through that process.
Yeah.
And literally after my dad got deported, we were getting evicted and we only had 3 days to move out and find out where we were living because of situations that I wasn't aware of, right? That my mom knew, but I didn't. So on top of all of that, doing all these things I was doing with my ex-boyfriend that I wasn't supposed to be doing, right? So I'm hurt, I'm damaged, right? And I really didn't have my dad. So now I'm like this little girl who's looking for her dad, trying to fill this void of, so I allowed myself to be sexualized a lot by men. or, and I've been like in my younger years during all this, like I would be told like, oh, if you didn't look this way, I would definitely have, sex with you and this and that, right? So in my mindset, I was like, well, I mean, if I'm being sexualized already, might as well use my body for whatever I can. So to fill this void that I had, I would do things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, that no girl my age should be doing at all.
No, absolutely. And like, I think that kind of plays into like part of the recovery process and like becoming whole again,
Yeah, most
right?
definitely.
And
Yeah.
like, forgiving ourselves for like the things that happened to us and stuff. And then like that, the things that come with that, toxic guilt and shame,
Yeah, most
right?
definitely. Yeah.
And then it pushes the alcohol more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then like experiencing like, so when I was younger, I had a family member who had a boyfriend, right? Um, who took advantage of me in a way, right? And it came to light a couple years while I was with my ex-boyfriend, and I got blamed for it. It looked like I was the one lying, that I deleted evidence, and so on and so forth. And I carried that on for many years. So while all this is going on, right, I'm using the coping of forget church, forget God. Like, I don't want to deal with any of that. So because I was drinking so much, I was going out clubbing so much, I just didn't care anymore. Like, I remember, like, there was times I would go to church and I would have the same makeup from the night before. I'm pretty sure I reeked like alcohol, but I thought I didn't, right? My hair was a mess. I just didn't care. I got to a point where I didn't care anymore. And I had to carry a lot of that. Like because in my household, there was we didn't talk about the problems. It's like, okay, it happened. Let's move on. Let's brush it around under the rug. And it is what it is. Like, we don't want to talk about our feelings. We're not going to cry, and if you were going to cry, it's like, okay, cry and put your big girl pants on because we got to move on. So that just led to a lot of drinking. And then it came to a point where that relationship became very toxic as well.
Okay.
Right.
How long were you in that relationship?
I want to say like throughout my high school, like throughout all of high school. So like about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was dumbly in love with this man.
Yeah.
And, right. And like, it got very toxic. Like, we were breaking up and getting back together. I was talking to other guys on the side because, again, I was hurt. I was broken. I was looking for this validation from man. And at that time, I didn't understand that. But now that I'm in recovery and I've done the work, like, I understand that. Like, Betsy, you were just a girl who was really hurt and broken and really trying to find validation in men when you could have found it in yourself. So it got to a point where, it was just toxic. Like, we would drink, and then, it got to a point where we ended up breaking up. But then he would tell me things like, I don't know why you want to be back with me if I'm messing with other girls. Like, just complete heartbreak and destruction. And it was just horrible, right? And, we both played our part in it, right? Not realizing the damage we were doing to each other. Yeah.
So you guys break up. Does the drinking continue?
Yes, it does. It most definitely continues.
It got worse, I bet.
Yes. So I had met another friend.
Okay.
And while through all this, right, like my mom's kicking me out the house. Like I'm going back and forth home. I'm living with friends, trying to figure out like all means of life, right? And I met a guy friend, right, who drank, right? But he had like, I don't know if he still drinks today, but he had like this level of tolerance for alcohol. Like, I was like, oh, damn, like.
He could put him back.
Yeah, he could put it back. So when I started hanging out with him, like, it wasn't just like a bottle of wine we were drinking. We were drinking 3-4 bottles of wine together between us two, driving intoxicated from like New York, coming back at like 7 o'clock in the morning, me waking up because the sun is rising type of stuff. So the drinking just got worse from there. I was drinking at the parks. I was drinking, driving. I was drinking, you know, before going to work. Sometimes even at work, leaving for my lunch break and then gonna go have a little quick drink to chill out, relax until I go out later tonight. So, yeah, it just got bad from there. Yeah.
Definitely. When did you get into college? Because that's kind of how you ended up at CCAR.
Yeah, so I actually straight after I finished graduated high school, I got into college, but because like when I started drinking and stuff and all this stuff started going down, like I started failing classes. So I had to repeat like a couple classes and stuff. And it got to a point where like financial aid wouldn't cover me anymore. They were like, you've tried already, like you're gonna have to pay out of pocket whatever classes you have left. So I think I had like a semester left before graduating, and that's when I got introduced to CCAR.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you get in, you do your internship. You kind of feeling a little bit at home? Like, what's up?
I was just like, because my mindset was like, all right, I need this to be able to get, I think I was doing it for my behavioral health care certificate. I was like, I just need to get this hours done.
Yep.
I'm going to go in, you know, play until I make it, you know, fake it till I make it, and then I'm out. Like, I'm going to get my certificate, I'm going to graduate, and then I never got to see these people again.
Yep.
Boy, was I wrong. Definitely God had different plans for that. So when I started really setting into the groups and stuff like that, a lot of self-reflecting came into play. Like I was like, oh, snap. And the thing is, before I got involved with CCAR, because of my drinking, I had gotten into like this huge accident. So I totaled my car because I was drinking and driving, and I was chasing some dude I had no business chasing.
Yep.
Right. And my car got totaled really bad. So I ended up with no car, had to buy like a 1999 Subaru Outback, right, out of cash. And so I was already like distraught, trying to figure life out, right? I had already been pregnant with my son.
Okay.
I think I got involved with CCAR in like late of 2019 because I'm pretty sure I had my son already.
Yes.
So, and at that point, like I wasn't drinking as much because now I have a kid. Like I have my responsibilities. My husband doesn't drink at all. My husband is like when I first met him, he was more like a social drinker. Right? He was more like, I'll have a beer, but that's it, or two maybe, tops. But I've never seen him indulge in anything. So when I first met him, I was like, we went to the, so I met my husband at the club.
Okay.
And so when we went to the bar, he was like, oh, I'll have a water. And I was like, well, I'm definitely not ordering a drink in front of this dude, right? He's going to be like, what's up with this chick, right? I'm not going to order no damn Long Island or Sex on the Beach or whatever it was. So it got to a point where I met my husband, found out I was pregnant, completely distraught with that, but I surrounded myself by people who told me that they would step up if my husband wouldn't at the time, because me and him were just dating. And so after I had my son, I was still drinking here and there on the weekends, but I would indulge. Like there would be like one shot and I would be like, hell no, like let's take 10.
Yep.
Right? To the point where like I'm dancing on the floor, shaking it like I don't care, you know? And not remembering anything, or like ending up in the bathroom wrapped up in a over the toilet with a blanket, throwing my gut, you know, puking my guts out.
Yep.
So, but when I came to CCAR, I was like, oh snap, like, damn, I do have a problem.
Like maybe I fit in here.
Yeah. And then like hearing like especially the women's stories, right, of being in situations they shouldn't be, like waking up in a stranger's bed because I'm blackout drunk. Like I've experienced that. And hearing that, I was like, oh snap, Betsy, it's not normal. Or waking up, you know, without your clothes on, right? Like that's not normal, Betsy. So hearing these women share their experience really made me open to understanding, like, Betsy, you have a problem. Like, even though you're only doing it on the weekends now because you have a child and a family, right? And my husband played a big role in me wanting to change my ways, and also my kid. And I, like, even though at the moment of finding out I was pregnant, right? I was like distraught, but I understood later on that that's what God used to help me change my life today.
Yes.
So, and I hope my son watches this one day when he gets older, so he knows, the impact he caused in my life.
I think that's like one of the more amazing parts about being a parent is like sometimes, so my kid's 3. I love my daughter. I got her all, I'm, happily married. Me and my wife work a lot of like opposite schedule stuff during the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I got her and like yesterday I came home and like I pull up to the driveway and I get out of my car and I like yell to her and she like climbs up in the window and like she's so happy that I'm home. Like, and part of that is the security that like when I walk up to the house, she knows exactly what she's gonna get. That like I have the emotional stability that like in my life today that like I don't have to act out in drugs and alcohol,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, most definitely, right? And parenting's not easy, right?
No, absolutely not.
Parenting, especially when they're in that 3, 4 age,
Yes.
it's not easy, right? Especially when it's your first child, right?
Yep. I am so tired.
All the time, right? And, and they want snacks and want this,
Yep.
but I'm very thankful for where I'm at today because it has allowed me not to, like, I really find myself making sure I try not to react like my mom used to do or my dad, or really, really trying to build a safe place where my son can feel his emotions, right? And try to express them, even though he's 4, right? Because growing up, I didn't have that. Or, making sure that he grows up in a 2-family household, right? Especially something where I am married to his dad. It's not just like we're living together and then at any moment, mom or dad can walk out and leave, right? Or mom and dad can disappear out of nowhere. And it can still happen while we're married, but I feel like today, because of the foundation I have on God, I pray that never happens. Divorce is not even a topic in my home because I really want to be an example for my son and show him that, no matter where we grow up or what we've been through, especially someone like me or anyone who's in the recovery field, right? Or is in recovery, right? It doesn't matter, that we can change and break different cycles from what we've experienced in our lives. Yeah.
I think recovery gives us that stability in that way, right?
Yeah.
That like, hey, like today I don't have to live in fear because like, or whatever, or like today I don't have to live in anger and like I'm going to talk with you and overcome like this issue that we have, or like, hey, my kid's struggling with this, right? Like my kid didn't go pee on the potty till she was 3.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And it's like, there's things in our life that like need attention and stability and direct action, right? And like recovery gives us that ability to do that.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, or when our kids frustrate us, right? Like, I don't feel like I have to go get a bottle of wine to be like, oh my God, like I really need to relax and I need a glass of wine to do that, right? I don't want my son to see that. And not only that, but it allows me to do the work I do today, right? I get to, so I'm the volunteer manager at the CCAR location in Bridgeport. And I get to work one-on-one with the volunteers and really get to hear their stories and how many times there's many things that we relate to when coaching them. And I get to also be part of a community where I don't feel like I have to be surrounded by people who are drinking 24/7 or that party lifestyle is all that it is out there, when it's really not. There's so much more to life than just drinking and drugging and doing all that stuff, right? And I get to see that today. And not only that, my life completely has changed, like, and I'm really grateful for it.
It sounds like you're a lot more fulfilled in your life today.
Yes, most definitely. Like I know I have purpose today. I know like my body is not just, something that should be sexualized. I know that I have more value than what I thought that 13, 14-year-old little girl thought that she didn't have. And today I have it. And I thank God for giving me a man who does value me today, right? And understands. And I thank God that he played a big role in who I am today, too, as well, and helping me change and, hearing me out whenever I felt like I needed to cut somebody off, and him being, understanding of that, and him seeing, each thing that I had to overcome, right? Or, coming to things where I had to provide a lot of forgiveness to self and to others, or God bringing up things from my past that I didn't realize that I had to let go of still,
Yes.
right? And CCAR also brought all of that, being in a space where I can be vulnerable, because I used to hate being vulnerable. I did not like talking about my feelings. And it's the culture I grew up in, right? There was
Yep.
no talking of my feelings. Like, I am who I am and that's it. But today I can be vulnerable about what I feel and what I think and how I think about it. And
Yes.
being able to have people receptive to that, but also help me and hold me accountable to it, which is great.
That's amazing. Absolutely.
Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
You started out at CCAR too as a DOC recovery coach, huh?
Yes. Yes. I love the Reentry Community.
Okay.
And it was something new. So I've had trouble with the law, but I've never, obviously with the car accident I had, right? By the way, I didn't catch a DUI for that, which was amazing because I was drunk out of my mind. But anyways, so I've never been like fully arrested. I've always had trouble with the law, but like Melissa from DOC says, like, it wasn't that I wasn't breaking the law, I just never got caught doing it.
Yeah.
So I never got arrested, but when this opportunity to work with the Reentry Community opened up, I really wanted to get out of my comfort zone, right? And really see if my experience, right, would help some way those who were incarcerated.
Yep.
Or those who are coming home, right? Like, how can I be fulfilling to those who need help, who need support, who need a coach? And it really expanded my mind. Like, it really showed me a different world. Like, having to have a recovery call me back every 15 minutes because the phone call ended.
It's
right?
wild.
Yeah. And, or, building this relationship with someone while they're incarcerated, and then they come home and you're like, oh, snap, now I got to see you face to face.
Yep.
Now it's not just, on the phone calls, right? And to them, right, it gives them this level of support that they may not have while being incarcerated.
This is the level of support they need.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And, and it makes me happy to hear that the DOC team continues to grow.
Yep.
And that they continue to do a big impact on those who are incarcerated, or those who are coming back home, or even like the jail diversion team, helping those, preventing them from being incarcerated, right? Because overall, we face a disease, right? And sadly, there's still people who don't think of it that way.
Definitely.
So it's amazing to be able to hear the impact that's happening and the opportunities that, these recoveries are being given while being incarcerated, like the Recovery
Absolutely.
Coach Academy, and, being able to become a recovery coach professional. That's amazing in itself. Who would have thought in a million years something like that would have happened?
Oh, yeah.
But it's happening. So,
Yep.
yeah.
It's like, and one of the cool parts for me that was really fulfilling is like, so I got sober through, a 12-step fellowship and stuff like that. Then I started to volunteer at CCAR, right? And like, I started to feel like even more fulfilled in my life and being like, yeah, like this is something I want to do. And then like being able to work at the place and be a part of,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I found recovery.
Yeah. And like, so after I was an intern, like, and became a volunteer, it really shows you how to work hard
Mm-hmm.
for what you want, like, and what you want to achieve, right? And like while being a volunteer at CCAR, right? Like I graduated with my associates. I started doing my bachelor's, right? I changed my ways completely, right? I really became a professional. I went to the Recovery Coach Academy. Like all CCAR really helped me, right? Achieve all these goals, right? Giving me the tools that I need to achieve these things, and I will forever be grateful for that.
Yeah.
But recovery alone itself, right? Sometimes, and I tell my volunteers this all the time, like sometimes we don't see the potential we have within ourselves because we're so fogged up with whatever we have around us. But somebody saw that potential in me and pulled it out and really helped me and guided me and support me, right? And not just my CCAR family, but people like my pastors and leadership at my church, right? People praying for me, right? That really helped as well along through my journey. And I'm just grateful for the opportunities that I have today. Even something like this, coming and talking on a podcast, never would I've thought that I would do this.
It was pretty funny because when you walked in, they were like surprised, and it was like, yeah, you're gonna stretch.
Yeah.
Today you're gonna stretch yourself, and like that's a part of recovery, right? Is like you're taking that opportunity to share the message of hope and stuff. And I think it's important too, as a girl dad. I love strong women leaders, right? My wife works in politics. She does a lot of that type of stuff as well, and like it's really cool. I think the world needs to continue to support and help women grow and lead.
Yeah, most definitely. And, and especially us who are in roles of leadership, right? Like I tell my volunteers stretch, right? But how can I tell them to stretch if I'm not stretching myself, So I really, and I like to pull them out of their comfort zone, right? Whether it's with their recovery or whether it's running a meeting or anything like that. So this is really pulling myself out of my comfort zone. And it's been great, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate recovery. I appreciate what it has given me, and even though, some people may think, oh, well, she doesn't have a recovery date or, but I'm in recovery, right?
Yes.
And the beautiful thing about CCAR is we are in recovery when we say we are.
Yep.
So I'm grateful for that as well.
So having been through like a lot of stuff, especially, in your early teenage years, older adolescence kind of stuff, what message would you really send to these young women who are like struggling, or if they're like starting to build self-identity? Like what way would you support them in that?
I would tell them, to really dig deep and believe the purpose that they were created for. Right? Even if they don't see it at that moment, right? Even though, it might be cloudy, right? And circumstances of life, or maybe things that we make, that we do, right? That can bring guilt and shame, right? One way or another, it's for the purpose that we have today. And I really want women, and including men, right? To really dig deep and to trust in their higher power, right? That they were created for purpose, for whatever purpose that is, that they were created for it. And that sometimes it just takes us getting surrounded by the right people so that that purpose can be fulfilled and that potential can be pulled out. So for them to be aware of who they surround themselves in and to really dig deep and find their identity and find that purpose, and to allow their higher power, like I allowed God, to help me fulfill that purpose, the purpose that he assigned to me today. And he continues to assign to me today. So really dig deep into that purpose and believe and stand firm on that purpose, no matter what the wind may throw at them.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story today.
Thank you, TJ.
Absolutely.
Mark your calendars for Saturday, September 28th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. A day of unity, inspiration, and celebration. Experience the joy of recovery with live music, a vibrant community atmosphere, a kid zone full of fun activities, and so much more. Walk with a purpose as we kick off the 23rd annual Recovery Walks at 12:30 p.m. at Bushnell Park in Hartford. Support us by attending, sponsoring, or making a donation. Let's come together and make a positive impact. It's time to put a face on recovery and show your support for a stronger, healthier community.